Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Gamesir X3 controller. This is pretty much how it turns up. I mean, it was in a plastic bag with my address on a sticker, that was it. So there's not a ton of protection when you get it, but the good news is there's a bit of bubble wrap around it, and the case the controller's in is pretty sturdy, and no damage was done. The thing's turned up okay. So let me rip this open and we'll take a look and see what's inside. So we've got the controller in its nice case, pretty solid case there. And if I just slip this sleeve off, you can see the Gamesir X3 written on it. So let's open this up. So in the case itself, we've got USB-C to USB-A cable, which feels very nice. It's not stiff at all, quite a sort of floppy cable, but I'm sure it's pretty high quality. Looks like it's actually branded with the Gamesir logo on it. We've got a little box. And inside it we've got caps for the thumbsticks, and we've got alternative thumbsticks here. Now these are a slightly different length from the ones that are already fitted on the controller itself. And then we've got an alternative D-pad, which if you take a look at that, it looks like it was designed by the Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil or something. And turning upside down there, you can see there's 4 little pins and then a metal plate, which I assume is magnetic. So moving to the controller itself, there's a Velcro strap around it. And that's quite a nice touch, because I think the previous one just had an elasticated strap, and it was always a right fiddle trying to get your thing in, get the controller in underneath it without getting the thumbsticks caught, and it was just, I don't know, I wasn't happy with it. So turning this over, you can see the cooler on the back, and the whole thing looks quite a bit thicker than the X2 previously did. Now, I'm going to do a comparison against the X2 in a bit, but I just want to sort of have a quick look at this first before we do that. That D-pad feels very clicky. Let me move this a bit closer to the microphone so you can hear. Yeah, very clicky. So here's the buttons. I don't know if the microphone's picking these up. And the shoulder buttons. And the triggers. So here's the cooling block here. Now obviously, to take advantage of this, you're going to need to use a phone out of its case. If it's in the case, it's not actually going to do anything. Now one of the issues I had with the original X2 controller was that I pretty much couldn't get my phone in if it was in the case. I've got an LG V60 as my main phone, and it was a major struggle. It would just about go in if I took it out of the case, but the whole thing felt quite uncomfortable. It honestly felt like the controller might break, so I just ended up not using it, unfortunately. So there's a plastic film over this, and it says on it, please remove before use. So let's peel this off. There we go. And this has got a sort of a rubbery feel to it. I guess that's going to mean that the phone's not going to be slipping around on there. Strange, because I expected that to be metal or something under there to, sort of conduct the heat, but no, it's sort of a, like I say, it feels like rubber. Okay, so what else is in the box? Some little quality thing, I assume, quality control. We've got the Gamesir sticker here. I don't know why, but I always seem to be reminded of Kellogg's cornflakes whenever I look at their logo. There's a thing here with a QR code saying go to TapTap for more information. So I'm assuming this is their app to allow you to program the buttons. Thank you for your purchase. Another QR codes to register. And you can extend the warranty period of 6 months and take advantage of their special offers. Okay, and then lastly we have the manual. It's a little thing just telling you about the layouts and how to install the phone, although I'd have thought that was pretty obvious. Using the cooler, charging the phone through the controller, etc. So anyway, let's take a quick look and compare the X3 with the X2. So I'll just move this out of the way here and bring in my slightly dusty X2. So you can see that in terms of the width, they're pretty similar, but the X3 is quite a bit taller. So the best thing to do is probably just to do a quick measurement of these. So I'll ignore the thumbsticks and the D-pad. So just taking it from the bulge at the bottom of the X2 to the top there, we're looking at about 29 millimeters. Just make sure I'm measuring from the peak there. Yeah, 29 millimeters. Whereas with the X3, you're looking at about 38, 39. So it's a whole 10 millimeters taller, this thing here. So quite a bit beefier. Now another obvious change is on the X2, the USB-C port here was on the left-hand side, whereas it's now on the right-hand side. Now I've seen people sort of saying, oh yeah, it's where it should be. Like there's some long history of these devices being out which say it should always be on this side. You know, I mean, these things have only been out for a couple of years. There's no right place for it. It doesn't really make much of a difference, I don't think. But anyway, they've now switched it to this side. And you can see there that it has got quite a bit of flexibility in it. And looking at the other one, the X2, because of the extra height on this, it's kind of moved up slightly more than it was on this one. There's a bigger gap underneath on the X3 than there was on the X2. At least that's what it looks like to me. Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I want to check out is, will my LG V60 fit in the X3 any easier than it did in the X2, which was a nightmare. So I've got it in the case. If necessary, I'll take it out. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, no. Now, I don't know if you can see there that that's just not sitting right at all. I mean, look at that. That's a mess. Now, it could be the case. So what I'm going to do is take it out of the case and see if it's any better. But yeah, using it in the case like that, that's just hopeless. Before I take it out, though, I'm going to try my other phone, which is Huawei Mate 9. And this has been a great little phone. I mean, it's no powerhouse these days, but I've been able to use this with the case on in the X2. And it's a similar story. It just seems to fit worse in this. And the issue is, it's that cooler they got on the back. It seems to be pushing stuff up in the middle there. Okay, let's take that out as well. So I'll take the LG V60 out of the case. And let's see what it's like now. Okay, I still don't like this. It's... I don't know if you can see there, there's just way too much flex in this, and it really feels like it's going to pop my phone out here. It doesn't seem to be holding it properly at all. This is just... Oh, this honestly feels like I could be playing a game and my phone would just sort of like pop out of this. It doesn't feel safe in here at all. Just way too much flex. Honestly, I don't see that cooler making a huge amount of contact with the phone. I don't think the camera is going to pick this up. But let me just try and jiggle it around a little bit. Yeah, I mean, this side here, like I said, I don't think you can see. This side here, there's, well, basically a big gap. It's not making contact with the phone. But when I look all around this, I don't see that cooler making contact with the phone. I mean, it might be touching a tiny amount somewhere, but it's not obvious. So I really question the benefit of this cooler. And in the meantime, the whole mechanism feels quite flimsy, and as I've said, it feels like my phone could just pop out of this end. I mean, when I do this, it feels quite grippy with the rubber. But yeah, that's not good. I guess what I probably need to do is to actually use the thing and see if it actually is making a difference. But if it's based on contact with a phone, then the answer is going to be no, because it ain't touching. And let's see if the cooler makes better contact here. And the answer is no. I can see it touching here, but from this point on, it's not touching at all. Again, another big gap. So I would seriously question how well this cooler is actually going to perform. And given that this is the whole point of the X3, or one of the, or possibly the biggest point of the X3, yeah, it does make me wonder, you know, if they're talking about this being retail price of $99, then honestly, I don't think it's worth the upgrade. No way. No way at all. Okay, so let me take this out of here. So in order to swap out these are magnetic, the D-pad, and you just basically get your fingernail underneath and pop it out. And you can see the little pins there and the magnetic bits as we had on the one I showed you. I mean, this felt okay. This one here felt okay in use. Let's put in the Umbrella Corporation one. Bit of a trick lining up the little pins there, but there we go. Yeah, I mean, it feels okay. I mean, honestly, I'd have to play with it to see which one I prefer, but it seems okay. Now, one thing I'm not keen on is the little thumbsticks, because they're just tiny. That surface area really is tiny. So I really do think you kind of need the keycaps. So we've got concave ones, and then we've got convex. Personally, I'd go with the concave ones every time. So if you just slip these over the top, I think that's on properly. That does kind of solve the problem of the tops of those thumbsticks being too small, because this makes it a little bit bigger. It's quite a nice size then. So the buttons here, again, these are magnetic. These can be swapped out, and if you want it the Nintendo style as opposed to the Xbox style, you can do that. So you can put your A up here and your B down there, and your X and your Y. I'm not going to bother popping these out just now because it's quite fiddly. And I'm regretting cutting my fingernails yesterday because I can't get underneath this. So the next thing I need to do is to basically connect up the phone and see if it's going to have the power pass through. You'll notice here that we've also got a second USB-C port. Now this one is, well, this is the power pass through and this is the power for the fan. Okay, so I've connected up the Mate 9 into the controller, and I've got just a power bank connecting here. So this should be passing the power through into the phone and charging it up. And you can probably see, at first it wasn't showing up, but you can probably see there that I've got like the charging symbol now showing. So that is working here. You know, I don't know how well it's going to keep it charging. What I've found in the past with things like this is it tends to drain faster than it's actually charging, so who knows. Now the RGB controller, I've connected up the cable that came with the thing, and I'm going to plug it into another power bank. And I don't know if you can hear that. Let me move it a bit closer to the microphone. Just getting this horrible noise. So looking at the back, you can see the fan there. It's not turning. It's trying to turn, but nothing. So I don't know if the power bank's not giving it enough power or what. I don't know. But you can see yourself when you've got two cables connected, one to charge the thing using the pass-through and the other to get the fan working, it's just a mess. You know, I don't want to be gaming like this. This is just horrible. Okay, so this clearly isn't working, so let me unplug this. And I'll get a mains adapter and then try plugging it into that. Okay, so I've now got it plugged into a mains adapter. I mean, the power bank should have been given it sufficient power. I know that it's a good, reliable power bank. I've used it to charge my phone a number of times. But anyway, it's plugged into a mains adapter, which is providing 5 volts, 1 amp. And as you can see there, the fan's now going okay, but it's, you know, what a mess. I really don't like this at all. I don't have any equipment to actually test how much, if any, temperature drop there is here. I mean, I think one of the issues that you kind of face as well is that if you look at the LG V60, the back on that is pretty flat, but I was still having issues with gaps there. I mean, if I put that on the table, there's no kind of rocking at all, or very, very minimal. Whereas if I take out the Mate 9, I don't know if you can see there, the back on this is ever so slightly curved, and if I just put it down there, you'll see how that's rocking like that. So with this cooler, I mean, it's only ever going to make, it's never going to make full contact. But anyway. Wow, I've got to say, despite all my skepticism about this material, just putting my finger on this, that is dropped in temperature quite significantly. So yeah, that is making a big, big difference. Or should make a big difference, providing it's making contact with the back of your phone, that is. Okay, I'm going to stop this here just now, and I'm going to do a bit of gameplay testing with it. When I've completed that, I'll come back and I'll let you know how this thing performed in gameplay, what it felt like, and is it actually better than the X2? I've got to say that in gameplay I had no issues at all with the Gamesir X3. I tried it with both the standard kind of cross D-pad and the alternative one that they provided as well, and both of these worked absolutely fine. I used it on Metal Slug, and I'm not big on fighting games, but I know it's something that a lot of people are keen on and want to know how it performs with a fighting game. So I used the PlayStation version of Dead or Alive, and even I did pretty well with it, quite honestly. It didn't matter which one of these I used. they just seem to be just as good. Although I've got to admit that the familiarity of the standard cross one is something I did prefer. Buttons were responsive, sticks worked okay, everything was fine. I didn't notice any particular lag or anything like that. So in terms of performance, the Gamesir X3 performs absolutely fine in gameplay. So in conclusion, I have to say that the Gamesir X3 seems, well, I've got to admit, disappointing. It really seems like a whole load of niggly little things and a series of missed opportunities on the part of Gamesir. For example, there's the triggers. We've still got digital triggers. I mean, why? Analog triggers are one of the things that people were really keen on getting after the Gamesir X2, so why haven't we got those? The whole thing's been redesigned, so they could have put them in. And then there's a lack of a headphone jack. I mean, there's space enough here, why not include a 3.5mm headphone jack? Now, I know a lot of phones are doing away with these, but there's still an awful lot of phones that still use them. And personally, I hate using Bluetooth headsets. One of the things I was quite keen on, an improvement I wanted to see, that they have implemented, is the ability to take bigger phones. And while they've put that in, it's come at a cost. This thing's now so bendy, as I demonstrated earlier, that you know, it just feels like my phone's insecure, that it's going to come popping out at any point in time. And then there's this stick problem here. When I say problem, I mean the stick works fine in itself, but they've redesigned this whole case and somehow managed not to notice that your thumb is going to be constantly bumping against this. And what I realised is that with this, when I put the thumbstick cap on, it just makes the whole thing that tiny bit bigger. I've measured it, and in total it's like 4mm bigger, so 2mm that side, 2mm this side, and it's just enough to be bumping there. How come they never noticed this in testing? I mean, honestly, you would have to have real little lady fingers for this not to be a problem. And the case is big enough that they could have moved that stick ever so slightly. Another 2mm would have done it. Now you might be saying, well, it's because you put the cap on, but this isn't some third-party cap that I went out and bought. This came with the controller. This is Gamesir's own thumbstick cap. So if you're going to be supplying stuff to the customer to use with the device, then, well, hey, make sure it works with it. Make sure that you've actually got space for your thumb. Now, one of the things I do like is the way that this thing can move around and bend to protect your phone and stuff. But for the love of God, why did they not just make it that tiny bit longer so you could use it with your phone with a case on it? You know, they could have done it. I'm quite sure of that. So that to me is a niggly annoyance, because the idea of this, I can whip this out, pop my phone in it, have a quick game. It kind of loses appeal when every time I decide to have a game, I've then got to start taking the case off my phone, and where the hell do I put that, and then getting this in, and then once I've finished, case back on, etc. It's stupid, really stupid. Now, obviously, the big change with this is the fan that they've got here, the cooling fan. And I'll be honest with you, it's you know, if you've got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which we know get a bit toasty, then maybe this thing's a godsend to you. I don't know. But for me, it's a solution to a problem I don't have. And yeah, the whole design seems to be kind of compromised as a result of that. But I'm sure there's some people out there with, you know, with phones that do get red hot that will appreciate this, but neither of my phones do. And one thing I'd also like to point out is that when you're actually using this, it can get a bit noisy. You know, and this is brand new, so I think, as we all know, as fans get older, they get noisier as you get the dust collecting in it and stuff. So, yeah. I'm glad I don't need to use it, because if I was using it, then it would be doing my head in probably about a year's time or something. And talking of the fan, this is just a mess. I mean, you've got the power pass-through, which for me, thankfully, works. I've heard a lot of people say that it doesn't work with their phones. But you've got that there, and then this, which will only work if you've got the power connected. Now, I tried it, as you saw, with a battery bank. It didn't work. It almost worked, but it didn't. And that's a decent battery bank. It's not the best in the world, but it's It works for all the phones I've got, but it wouldn't power this thing. So if you've got to have this connected to mains USB adapter and then this connected to something else, then this kind of, to me, ceases to be a mobile games controller at that point. If you've got it plugged into the mains for this and then plugged in for something else, yeah. And it's a mess. It's a clumsy mess when the cables are connected. And lastly, it's just a shame, given the size of this thing and the layout, etc., that they couldn't have at least stuck in an extra couple of buttons that you could maybe have programmed. I mean, we've seen that on other controllers, so it's not a major thing, but it's certainly would have been high up on my list of nice-to-haves. Anyway, I picked this up for $69 on Indiegogo on the day it was announced, and I'll be honest, at $69, I'm disappointed. I honestly can't see me using it that much, if at all. I suspect it's just going to sit in a drawer, and they're talking about putting the price up to $99. Honestly, at $69 I feel ripped off. $99, yeah, there's no way I'd be touching this. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know. Is it something that you're interested in? Would you buy it? The drawbacks, or what I perceive to be drawbacks, is that something that bothers you? What things would you like them to have added into here? Let me know in the comments section below.